Hey guys, welcome to video one with Frank the Broker. In the days of AI and fake videos and fabulous edits, I want to keep it real. So I am going to keep this as real as possible. We'll see what it evolves into, but the goal here on this channel really is to help real estate brokers, new brokers especially, but seasoned brokers as well. Over the last 16 years of me being a real estate broker with Remax, I've learned a lot of shit and I like to share it with people. I've mentored many new agents. A lot of them succeeded, a lot of them didn't, for different reasons, and we'll get into that. But here's what this channel isn't. I'm not going to be here, flaunting any kind of $1 million listings or, how to sell you a course on, what to do. And that's not what I'm here for. When I started 16 years ago, basically my first day, I went into the brokerage and I said, okay, what do I do? And basically he threw me a phone book and he's like, go for it, call people. And I was like, what am I going to tell them? He's like, well, they see if they want to sell. And that was a fucking nightmare. I hated that. And although I've all my life I've been in sales and businesses. I've owned many bars and restaurants and clubs, and but I've always been in sales, right? I used to sell heat pumps and air conditioning and oil contracts, and my whole family's in sales, and I've been born and raised in this, so it's something that's very familiar with me. My first real job when I was like 12 or 13 years old was to go work for my father in a call center and make cold calls to sell oil contracts, and I fucking hated that. I hated that. That was my worst nightmare, to be bothering people and calling people at home at night. And so that was like big no. Anyway, so when I started in real estate, I went to the office. That's what he told me to do. I did it for about a total of 28 and a half seconds. No, I probably did it for, I don't know, an hour. Obviously no success. I did have some conversations, but I had no idea what to tell people. I didn't know, there were scripts. I didn't know there was ways to convince people and the funnel. I didn't know any of that, right? So I found myself at home on my bed, looking at YouTube videos, and I found many coaches, real estate coaches that posted clips onto YouTube, and it kind of helped, but nothing was segmented, nothing was following, like it was just clips and reels, and so I kind of learned like that, and I ended up eventually I created a great real estate business, and I'm still a real estate broker, and I absolutely love what I do, but more importantly, what I love about it is really helping people, and I noticed that in helping people find their homes, and helping people realize their real estate dreams, I guess, by buying and selling homes and properties and building multi-million-dollar portfolios with some of my clients. I realized that the thing I love the most is really helping people. So that's what I want to do here. And I want to keep it as real and as raw as possible. There's not going to be, or hopefully anyways, I don't want to have these super edits, and I have videographers and I have people that have offered to do like podcast style, and I don't want to do that. I really want to keep it as straightforward as possible. So that's what you'll find here on this channel. And I want to post maybe once or twice a week. Obviously now is not a busy season. We are July, I think 22nd, so it's not that busy. So I have time. There's times during the year where it's a lot busier. So maybe I'll post once or twice a month. Who knows? You guys will dictate, the frequencies of that. So, like I said, at the beginning of my real estate career, I Well, basically, I was very intimidated on what I needed to do, what not to do, who to call, what to say. I had no clue. So my first instinct was I had a lot of friends in the business in real estate, and I went to them and I said, "Hey guys, do you want me on your team? Do you want me to come?" And their answer was simple, like, "No, Frank, we don't want you on our team. It's not because we don't want you on the team, but you're like bigger than life. You don't need me. You don't need us. You do it yourself. You're gonna see it's much better." And I didn't take that so well. I guess I didn't believe in myself. I was very intimidated by the real estate machine. School teaches you so many things, but at the end of the day, when you're on the field, it teaches you really nothing. It teaches you how to fill contracts out. It teaches you about law and the Real Estate Brokerage Act, but it teaches you nothing in terms of day one, you're on the field, now what? So this is what this channel is going to be about. And like I said, I want to keep it as real as possible. So I'm not trying to sell anybody any kind of script or sell you a course or sell you any type of nothing. I want this to be interactive. I think you could post comments below. I want a question that I'll see, and the next video will be about that, right? And we'll discuss if you have any questions or what to do or what not to do in certain situations. So, but if not, as we go, I will ravel or unravel slowly, how I did it and what I did. So that's where we're at now. At the beginning of my career, like I said, the real estate machine was super scary. I didn't know what to do, how to start. And a guy throws me the book and says, "Here, call people." But on YouTube, like I said, I did find some people and different coaches. Mike Ferry was one of them. Craig Proctor was another one of them. And eventually, I did make enough money, and I did go to some of these courses. I attended for some of them for a couple of months, a little more than 2 years for another one. And they did help me. Every time I did take one of these courses, it did level me up. For example, the first time I decided to go with Mike Ferry, Mike Ferry is all about cold calls, which is something that I hate. And one of my mentors taught me, eat the frog in the morning and then the rest of the day will be good. So I said, let me nip it in the bud and do that. And I really, really didn't like it at all. But I did have some of my friends and colleagues that used his systems, and it worked great. So to each their own, right? The other one with Craig Proctor for me was fantastic because it was not push marketing, but it was pull marketing. And that means you're sending, you're fishing out a reel and they're coming to you, right? And that was pretty good for me. So basically, my first 2 years in real estate, my first year in real estate, I made zero money. I think my end of year was like $14,000 in GCI. $14,000 is absolutely nothing in real estate. As a matter of fact, I was owing money to my brokerage. And I found that very, very, very hard. And one of my mentors at the time, because I still had my other job, so he was telling me, Frank, you just got to jump in the pool. You just gotta dive in, like get into real estate full time, make your mark, and it's gonna hurt, but you'll get better at it. And that was very scary for me, And I didn't want to do it, but I didn't really have a choice because I had my son, and that was the catalyst for me to change from bars and restaurants and clubs to having a real life. And at 18, I wanted to be a real estate agent. I just didn't want to go to school and didn't want to bother with it. But here I am. So he told me, Frank, just jump in the pool and you got to just do real estate full time. The first year, $14K, I really, really fucked up. I started having a lot of debt, credit card debts and loans, and man, it was just a freaking nightmare, really. And then year 2, I met a girl that was also a real estate agent. She was already in it for a couple of years. She taught me a lot, as we went along. and that helped me a lot as well. She also introduced me to many of the other brokers. She knew everybody, right? And so that helped. So every step of the way I leveled up. The year 2, I think I made 18 grand. And I actually lived in my Jeep for a couple of months, and all my clothes in the back, and I was just saying, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what's happening, right? And real estate, and it's like the dream sales job, and so many people I know making money, and millionaires, and this and that, and why can't I do this, right? And that's where it kind of clicked. I got mad. I got pissed off. I went to see my agency director, and I told her, I said, hey, look, this is not working. I'm paying way too much money, to Remax. It's costing me way too much. You got to lower my bills. And she was an older lady. She was amazing. She's still around. And she grabbed me in the office, and she says, okay, well, look, I'm going to pull out all your listings and all your sales, and we'll analyze it together, and we'll see what I can do. So I got excited. I'm like, yeah, she's gonna give me a deal, and I'm gonna do better, and blah blah blah. I got into her office, and she literally pulled out a paper with all my listings. At the time, I had probably 30 listings, 32 listings, and we'll get into the first ones in another episode. But she looks at me and she says, Frank, if I'm calculating here all your money and all your listings and your potential sales, you have 30 or 32 listings. That's like an average of $5,000 per sale at the time, $5,000 to $6,000 a sale. You have about $120,000 just sitting here. So you have the listings. Obviously, that's not the problem. She goes, then you're the problem. She goes, you got to work your listings. And I'm like, what do you mean work my listings? She's like, call these people back and reanalyze the market and redo this and redo that and go see them and work out a deal so you can get their fucking houses sold. And I kind of clicked. I was like, well, I guess you're right. Yeah, maybe that makes sense. And she said, the problem is you're basically at the poverty level at this point, and a guy like you should be making so much more money. So work your files better, go see your clients, get those places sold. And I clicked. I said, yeah, you know what? You're right. And I said, what about the deal? What about the monthly? It's $1,200 a month. And she says, I don't have anything to give you. You have to work on your deals and you have to make more money. That's the problem. You need to work and make more money. That's what you need to do. I'm not changing anything on my end. I wanted to strangle her literally, but clearly I didn't, But in the movies, you see that moment where, so I was so mad. But when I walked out, it took a while. I got in the car and I was, what am I going to do? And okay, well, let's go back to the drawing board. And that's kind of what you do in real estate, is constantly going back to the drawing board. So I looked at my listings, I redid my comparables, and I've mastered that, and we'll get into that as well. But so I looked at and I went back to every client and I said, you know what, look, I made a mistake. The market is what it is. It was 2008, 2009 at the time, so that there was a crash in 2008, 2009. This is probably 2010, but it was 2010. Anyways, so I went back to them and I said, look, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I thought I can get you, this amount of money, and obviously it's not working out. And here, let's figure it out. Let's see what we can do. Here's the comparables. Here's what, the work I've done, and it worked. I started to make money, and I got to, the first year, I think, well, not the first year I made money. So year 3, I think I hit like $65,000 or $70,000. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, this is so much money, right? And it wasn't, because you Remax and real estate and the real estate board and the Centris or MLS, just everybody has their hands in your pocket, right? So it's not that much money, but it looks good on paper. And then moving forward, I kept hitting just under 100,000. And then I went back to my buddy and the guy at the beginning that told me, Frank, you just got to dive, and we don't want you on the team, not because we don't want you, but you don't need us, and blah, blah, blah. So I went back to him and we started a little team together. He already had a small team, and we just kind of exploded that one. And then I was hitting 150, like I just 148, 149. I was trying to and it wasn't working out. I mean, it was working out clearly, but I wasn't able to hit that 150 mark plus. And then I went to the coaching programs, and the coaching programs helped me. I leveled up, and I was, again, 198, 195, 192, 190, 189. I was always like, every year. And then I hit another program and coaching, and then boom, I went from 200 to 250 and to 300. So, and I've maintained that pretty much steady over the years. And so I've built a nice business. I've built a good business. And my goal here really is to share all of this with you. So that will conclude our first episode today. But what I want to know on your end is, give me some questions. Let's make this interactive. I will still go on and make my videos, but as we go, don't be shy. Put questions, or go on Instagram at Frank the Broker, and you can DM me there, or on Facebook if you have any questions or anything you want me to cover on certain episodes moving forward. So that'll be a lot of fun for you and a lot of fun for me to answer. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I definitely did. I didn't think I would like this, but I actually do. So thumbs up. Let's continue. Thank you for watching, and of course, any other questions, you let me know.